Hello, hello. Welcome back. Or if you're new, welcome. My name is Katie. Today, I will be talking about the murder of Julie Jensen. Julie Griffin was working at a Sears department store in Oshkosh, Wisconsin when she first met Mark Jensen in 1981. They were both students at a local college. Mark graduated, but Julie did not. Mark got a job as a branch manager at the Racine, Wisconsin branch of a St. Louis-based financial firm. The couple got married and moved to Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin. They had two children, David, who was 8, and Douglas, who was 3 at the time of Julie's death. Julie worked a part-time job for the Port Authority in Chicago. On December 3, 1998, 40-year-old Julie was found dead in her bed by her husband, Mark. Early on in the investigation, police said suicide was likely her cause of death. The prosecutor, however, said he felt that something was off, especially with Mark's demeanor, which he said didn't seem remorseful or depressed following Julie's death. One of Julie's friends said in an interview with 2020 that she sensed something wasn't right about Mark. He had shown no signs of grief at his wife's funeral. Mark was standing maybe 5 feet from her casket, and he had a group of men around him. He was laughing and joking, and it just seemed so odd, she said. That same friend said that soon after the funeral, she noticed that there were over a dozen garbage bags on the curb outside of the Jensen's house that contained Julie's belongings. It's like he wanted to erase her, she said. He's erasing her from his life and from the house. To the surprise of everyone, especially Mark, a revelation by the Jensen's neighbors would confirm those suspicions. Before her death, Julie gave an envelope to her neighbors, Ted and Margaret Wote, and told them that if anything happens to her, to give it to the police. After Julie's death, the Wotes gave the police the sealed envelope. In it was a letter written by Julie along with a photo of a shopping list that included syringes and different types of poisons. Julie's letter had said, "I took this picture and am writing this on Saturday, 11/21/98 at 7 a.m. This list was in my husband's business daily planner, not meant for me to see. I don't know what it means, but if anything happens to me, he would be my first suspect. Our relationship has deteriorated to the polite superficial. I know he's never forgiven me for the brief affair I had with that creep 7 years ago. Mark lives for work and the kids. He's an avid surfer of the internet. Anyway, I do not smoke or drink. My mother was an alcoholic, so I limit my drinking to 1 or 2 a week. Mark wants me to drink more with him in the evenings. I don't. I would never take my life because of my kids. They are everything to me. I regularly take Tylenol and multivitamins. Occasionally take OTC, which means over the counter, stuff for colds, Zantac, or Imodium. Have 1 prescription for migraine tablets, which Mark uses more than I. I pray I'm wrong and nothing happens, but I am suspicious of Mark's suspicious behavior and fear of my early demise. However, I will not leave David and Douglas, my life's greatest love, accomplishment, and wish, my 3 Ds, Daddy, David, and Douglas." So let's bring up this affair that Julie had, that Mark never forgave her for, right? So Mark was also having an affair at the time of Julie's death. He was having an affair with a coworker named Kelly, so he was mad at Julie for cheating and never forgave her, but then he was also cheating on her. Police found several emails to Kelly on his computer telling her that he loved her, so he clearly wasn't trying to hide that. In 2002, the letter that Julie had written prior to her death was ruled as inadmissible, so they couldn't use it in court. According to U.S. law, the accused person always has the right to face their accuser, and Mark couldn't face his accuser because Julie was dead. Julie's 4 brothers were not happy about the letter not being able to be used in court, so they fought in legal disputes which made their way to the Wisconsin Supreme Court, and in 2007 the letter was finally ruled admissible and the trial date was set. 9 years after his wife's death, Mark Jensen was accused of murder in the 1st degree. Special prosecutor Robert Jambos believed that Mark poisoned his wife Julie with antifreeze and then suffocated her while she was barely breathing in their bed so he could start a new life with his mistress Kelly. Kelly had moved into Mark's home shortly after Julie's death, and the two married in 2002. That is not a good look. The trial was moved from Kenosha County to Walworth County in response to pre-trial publicity. Defense counsel Craig Albee argued that Julie was a depressed woman who killed herself and framed her husband. He added that Julie had seen a therapist at least 3 times for depression and was aware of her husband's affair with a coworker. During both of Mark's trials, his attorneys argued Julie died by suicide and was using her death to frame her husband for murder. Paul Griffin, Julie's brother, argued this allegation. He told 2020 that his sister was never a vengeful person. Quote, "That's the craziest thing I've ever imagined. I don't know how anyone could believe that. Anyone," he said. Evidence was introduced showing that Mark had discussed poisoning his wife with coworkers and a jailhouse informant, as well as searching the internet for information related to poison. The prosecution contended that Mark also remained angry over his wife's brief affair in 1991 with her coworker. Prosecutors claimed the evidence showed that Mark had the motive and means to take his wife's life. The prosecution also presented witnesses who testified during both trials that Mark Jensen made incriminating statements. Ed Klug, a former coworker of Mark, testified that during a work conference in the fall of 1998, Mark spoke about hating his wife and mentioned poisons and websites about killing one's spouse. Klug claimed that he didn't go to the police in part because he feared that Mark would retaliate against him and his family. Quote, "Looking back, I wish I would have taken him seriously," he said. David Thompson, who in 2007 was an inmate in jail in the same cell block as Mark, testified that Mark was aggravated by the prospect of Ed Klug testifying and called him, quote, "a thorn in his side." Mark had said, quote, "I wish I could get rid of him." Aaron Dillard, a jailhouse informant, had come forward in the case saying that he was housed with Mark in a Wisconsin jail. Mark had told Aaron that he had given his wife juice mixed with antifreeze, but she wouldn't die fast enough. Mark told them that their sons saw their mother struggling to breathe and they wanted to take her to the hospital. Mark told his sons that if she didn't feel better after school, then they would take her. He took the kids to school and waited all day for Julie to die. Right before Mark went to pick up the kids from school, he rolled Julie over, sat on her back, and pushed her face into a pillow, killing her. So he let her suffer all day, not being able to breathe. What a piece of shit. Aaron said that initially Mark told a different story, that Julie had poisoned herself with antifreeze trying to commit suicide, but Aaron brought up inconsistencies in his story. Mark confided in him that he actually did it. Aaron said that Mark did not show any remorse. He was not sorry for what he did and was unemotional when he confessed to Aaron about it. Julie had previously filed for divorce years earlier, but Julie's brother testified that Mark told Julie she would never see her sons again if she went through with it. Which is so wild to me. Like, he couldn't forgive her for this affair, so he was having an affair also, and he thought killing her was the best option. I'm wondering if maybe he didn't want anyone to know that there were, like, problems in their relationship. And, obviously, like, them getting a divorce proves that there were problems in their relationship. And maybe him making it sound like she was depressed and committed suicide looked better for him. I'm not entirely sure, but that's what I'm thinking his mindset was. The jury did not believe that Julie committed suicide. The prosecution ran for 5 weeks and the defense took 5 days. The letter was the critical factor in the trial that ended on February 22, 2008. The jury found Mark Jensen, who was 48 at the time, guilty of his wife's murder after more than 30 hours of deliberations. Mark was sentenced by Kenosha County Circuit Court Judge Bruce Schroeder on February 27, 2008, to life in prison with no chance of parole. Mark's wife and former mistress, Kelly, was granted custody of Mark and Julie's children. I hate that. Julie had 4 brothers. You'd think that the kids would go to someone in her family. Like, why why would you want those children to go be with the person that their father probably killed their mother for? You know? But again, I don't know the circumstances. I don't know if going with her family was even an option, or, maybe the kids were used to Kelly and they just felt more comfortable with her. I'm not sure. But I hate that they went with her. I don't like that. Mark's sons publicly supported him and requested the judge give Mark a parole date, publicly declaring their love for their father. On December 19, 2013, a federal judge overturned Mark's conviction and ordered he be released from prison within 90 days. The court agreed with Mark's argument that the state's use of his dead wife's words violated his constitutional rights to confront witnesses testifying against him. The state of Wisconsin appealed the case, but in 2015, the United States Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit upheld the district court's decision on September 8, 2015. Prosecutors retried Mark in January 2023 without the letter, focusing on other evidence they said proved he was responsible for Julie's murder, including internet searches he made on his computer. He was convicted by a jury following a day of deliberations on February 1st. Prosecutors decided to retry Mark for the murder of his wife in January 2016. On September 1st, 2017, Kenosha Circuit Judge Chad Kirkman reinstated Mark's conviction. On February 26, 2020, Wisconsin Court of Appeals District 2 issued a summary disposition reversing Judge Kirkman's decision to reinstate the conviction. The matter was remanded to the circuit court for further proceedings, including trial. Evidence contained in Julie's letter would not be admissible. Mark stood trial a second time starting January 9, 2023, this time before Kenosha County Circuit Court Judge Anthony Milisakis? I don't know. Sorry, dude. Mark was found guilty on February 1st, 2023. On April 14, 2023, he was once again sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And that is the murder of Julie Jensen. I always hate these cases where a spouse kills another spouse and the killer, for some dumb reason, thinks they can get away with it. Like, have you never watched the news? I don't know. But now their sons lost both of their parents because Mr. Mark Jensen couldn't just man up and get a divorce and everyone could have moved on with their lives. He's a dumbass. Anyways, I hope you like this case. Let me know what your thoughts are below. Do you think that Mark murdered his wife, or do you think she committed suicide and tried framing her husband? Let me know. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and check me out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!